Good morning. Welcome to church. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. I do appreciate it. You can get involved by going to our YouTube chat line. I want to hear from you. And we're going to respond. I'm going to respond to some of the questions and comments from last week as well. How is everybody here? Good. Everybody doing well? Yeah. I watched a fight last night with Mayweather and McGregor. McGregor? Yeah. Oh. And I normally don't watch it, but I was pulled into it by force, not by choice. And it was fun. It's just so amazing to see people beat up on each other. They punch each other in the face like that. That's crazy to me. It's like there's not enough money on earth. But I'm glad I saw it. I thought the young guy was going to win at one time because he started out punching really hard, right? But he didn't. Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about today. My biblical question is, what is the cause of human suffering? What's the cause of human suffering? It's such an important question. Very, very important. Who have heard the question before now? Oh, okay. And you say you have it? What's the cause of human suffering?
It's like last night when we met, you said we have a biblical question, and I'm like, this is exciting, I can come back tomorrow and hear about it. And then I said, let me think. And then I thought, let me think about it. And I know it's ignorance and lack of understanding, because like in my 20s, I would look back at my teen years and I was suffering, and it was always like because I didn't know any better. And then when I was in my 30s, I thought my life was harder in 20s because I didn't know any better. So every time I suffered, like just looking at my life, it's only because I didn't understand what's going on or I interpreted it the wrong way. So I think it's that oblivious, that ignorance. Pretty much you suffer because you're stupid kind of thing.
You suffer because you're stupid, how you think? Oh, okay.
No, that's what it is.
Interesting. Esteban said it was anger.
Because
James, like, everything is not about anger, Esteban.
Yeah, and that's
every answer is not anger.
At first I said, okay, anger, okay, but why is it anger? But why? Every time you ask why, it boils down to the last thing that you just don't, it's the ignorance,
Right. And the reason I ask these questions is because I'm trying to encourage you to start thinking, to know yourself. To know thyself is so amazing. And most people don't know themselves.
Can I add one last thing?
Yes, sir.
And then I remember too that when King Solomon, when God said, I give you whatever you want, he asked for knowledge, wisdom, understanding.
Yes.
It wasn't because he wanted to be know-all and king and not, but he probably understood too that once he has the wisdom, once he understands, then he's free, he's good.
Okay. And so the reason for human suffering, according to you, is
ignorance.
Because you're dumb.
It's ignorant, yeah, you're dumb. you don't, lack of seeing or oblivious, being.
Okay.
Because if life's good, but you're suffering, it's because you can't see that life's good.
Right. Are you getting to know yourself?
Yes.
And what have you discovered that was surprising to you?
It's like mostly my eyes are on all the weaknesses of mine. Basically, if I want to get to weaknesses, so if I want to get to know myself, I'm always searching for weaknesses, What have I found out about myself is just that my flawed thinking has always caused me suffering because my perception is distorted or my thinking is flawed,
Okay. Very interesting.
Looking back on my life, it's like God never abandoned me. Every hard times I went through, he was right next to me, but I was getting hurt because I had my own thinking. Like, I had my own reasoning, and I would suffer and ask God why. But looking back, there was no reason to get hurt at all, and he never abandoned me either.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That is so cool. It gets better. Keep paying attention to yourself. Life is not about how much money you make, where you live. It's not about culture. It's not about anything that we think it's about. Not one iota. It's about discovering the real way to live. What's the reason for suffering? humans. Did you know about this question?
Yeah.
Okay, and what did you discover?
If I'm looking at my life, anytime I haven't had my mind made up to go through whatever the hand that's dealt to me, then I've suffered. If I haven't made up my mind to go through anything, or as Armand said, you're totally in your head about things. If I had my own thought process, I would suffer. So I would say, anytime I hadn't made up my mind to go through whatever's dealt to me, I would suffer.
Okay, interesting. How about you? You knew about the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say
what is our reason for suffering?
sin and death.
Sin and death.
That's it.
What do you mean by that?
Everything that went wrong with creation.
A little louder for me.
Oh, everything that went wrong with creation.
So our suffering is due to sin and death. Everything that went wrong with creation.
No, because of the fall.
Oh, because of the fall.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Isn't this a good question? It really, really is. Esteban, what do you say it is now, since you found out everything is not about anger, Esteban?
I think all suffering comes from having an opinion.
Having an opinion.
Yeah. Meaning, like, let's say you're in a bad place, like in a bad job or something, and you have an opinion about it. Instead of just, like, going through with it, then you're going to suffer. You know, you're going to be angry or depressed, upset, or whatever.
Are you sure with this answer?
Yeah.
You want to change it real fast?
No.
Marilyn, you thought about the question?
No.
Now that you hear, what's the reason for human suffering?
I don't know.
Are you getting to know yourself?
No.
You're not? Why not?
I don't know.
You don't know? Why not?
I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Isn't it
I'm working
fun?
on it.
I'm sorry?
I'm working on it.
By doing what?
Meditating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had time to think about the question? Yeah. Okay, right here.
I guess it's not thinking about the long run, just thinking about
A little loud for me.
it's not thinking about the long run, just thinking about like right now, like should I drink tonight? Oh, it's going to give me a hangover tomorrow, but I don't care. I just want to get drunk right now.
Did you get drunk last night?
No. No.
Did you smoke pot last night?
No.
Oh.
I was at work.
You were at work? Oh, yeah, that's not the right place to get drunk.
That was just an example.
Yeah, I know. So you said the cause for human suffering is not looking at the big picture? Mm-hmm. Just kind of what you want to do right now? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Interesting. Raymond, you thought about it? And what's the reason?
My best reason is
reason?
Yes, I can think of for the suffering in the world is pride.
Not suffering in the world, but human suffering.
Yes, human suffering is based on pride.
Oh.
We take. It seems like we have a habit of looking at ourselves as the sole reason of our existence, playing God, and that all too often that causes the biggest bulk of suffering because we choose not to be humble in the moment.
So are you getting to know yourself?
A little bit at a time, yes.
And are you a prideful person?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. And so you like suffering?
No.
Well, then why don't you let the pride go?
I don't know how.
I've only told you 100,000 times.
By forgiving, by not hating.
Suffer and die. Somebody said, who said that? I feel your pain. Did you have your hand, Mary?
I didn't have my hand, but I can.
I thought you were. What's the cause for human suffering?
The cause for human suffering is lack of understanding.
Are you guessing at it?
No, that's what I think. Lack of understanding because
Understanding what?
well, understanding why things are the way they are and why you must just go through it instead of fighting against it.
Do you know yourself?
Somewhat, but yes.
By what?
Well, somewhat, but it's I still don't want to accept it.
You don't want to
It's
accept
kind-
what you know about yourself?
Yes.
And why not?
I just pride has to be the reason because I
So
don't
what
want
do you
to
know about yourself that you don't want to accept?
that I'm selfish, stubborn, unyielding to doing always the right thing.
You left out mean.
Mean. Well, that's
Mean.
that goes along.
M-E-A-N.
Yeah, mean.
Not
Mean.
meek.
Mean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you
Mean.
said meek. You
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, that came along with.
Oh.
I was inbred with that. Yes.
And it's hard to overcome being mean.
Yes.
It's hard to overcome that.
Yes, because I don't really see it until after the fact.
Oh, okay. You look great.
After the fact.
Mary lost weight. You look younger, thinner. You should get a husband now.
Not interested. I'm too mean for that.
And according to Mary, she lost the weight by, what's that thing called?
Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
On the keto,
Anybody ever heard of that?
through ketogenesis.
Apparently you miss meals and stuff like that. No
Well-
breakfast and no lunch, and then pig out just before 8
No,
o'clock.
it's not that at all. Intermittent fasting, doing ketogenic,
Oh, okay.
ketogenic
Yeah.
style.
I saw a hand. Yes, sir. Well, you look great, Mary.
I have several answers from online.
Okay, do you know what it is, James?
I mean, I have ideas, but I'm really not quite sure.
Oh, okay.
I could guess.
You're not supposed to be guessing at life.
Okay. Nicolas Gonzalez says, a disconnection from the Father causes human suffering. And then Ruth Buta says, resentment, I think. John Madsen says, greed, lust for power and control, fear of being weak. Robert Allen says, self-will, trying to control.
Self-will?
Self-will.
Oh, self-will.
Trying to control, not allowing the Father to do what he's promised to do already. And then Ashley Hopkins says, we suffer to the degree that we lack true faith. In other words, we suffer when we resist.
Okay. What do you say, Ernest?
I don't want to give away the answer.
Was it the same answer you sent me last night?
Yeah.
And how did I respond?
You rolled your eyes.
Ernest sent me the answer. He emailed it to me, or text, however he sent it. And he like really happy, like, now. And so I sent him back a space like this, laughing, rolling my eyes. You know, I send those little things.
Emojis.
What is it?
I think it's living in our imagination is the cause of human suffering. I'm gonna drop the mic.
Mark, help him out. This is so much fun.
I would just use different words, but I pretty much agree with what everyone is saying, even Ermias, and especially Esteban.
Really?
Yeah. I would just say it's separation from God, separation from the Father. Anytime you have an opinion, every time you have fear, doubt, worry, anytime you're playing God, you are suffering.
Okay. You got one bit with you, Esteban. You got one person going down with you. No, I'm kidding. Yes.
I would say it's kind of like the same. Like if you just push God away, live by your feelings, live by your thoughts. I kind of see it like a cell phone. God's the charger.
A cell phone?
Yeah, we're the phone. So when we disconnect, we slowly die. And that's why we suffer. Because we just think we can do it without God.
Are you happy with that answer?
Yeah, I'm
Are
pretty
you
comfortable
sticking
with
by
that. I'm sticking by it. Yeah.
Yeah, Joel. This should be interesting.
I think allowing the ego to make the decisions is the reason why we suffer.
I'm sorry?
Allowing the ego to make the decisions.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Just basically what they're saying, going along with your feelings. Yeah, just going along with your feelings and just allowing the ego to decide things for you, letting your feelings decide things for
Are you getting to know yourself?
you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you are. You know, yeah, what do you say it is? This is so important because, you know, I know we're having fun with it, and it is serious, but not real serious, because everything we need to know, everything we are, life itself is inside of us. And as you get to know yourself, you start to, you know, die away from the foolishness, as he said, the stupidness that we've been doing. But you got to get to know yourself. You know, and, you know, God said, seek first the kingdom of God, and his right will be added unto you. But if you're not serious about doing it, and you're just waiting to learn from the outside, you're hurting yourself. You really are wasting good life. And so when you die and you're going through that tunnel, you're going to see all what you should have been doing and the way things really are. And you're going to want to come back, but you can't. You got to go the other way, to the black gate instead of the white gate. But it's so, you can have it here right now. It's just so now. You know, it's just so simple. Go ahead, Ed.
It's separation from God.
Separation from God.
I mean, if you think if you'd like to make more money, you don't have enough money, well, maybe you're making the wrong decisions about how to make it, how to spend it. If you want more brains because you think you're stupid, well, there's common sense. God can direct you in the right direction. If you end up in a war zone, I was trying to think of what would happen to some innocent person that ends up in an area where they're being bombed. Now that's suffering. I mean, we're all talking here. We all get to go to our homes. We go to our lunches.
Right.
We skip our meals ketogenically, whatever, right? And that is not suffering.
So, do you know yourself?
Not as much as I'd like to, but a whole lot more than I have, even more than a month ago.
What do you know about yourself now that you didn't know a month ago?
That I really have a tough time separating I play tricks on myself about thinking that I have to be responsible, and so I do things that I use my will and my intelligence, whatever, or seeking the business gains more than anything else. I see that as being responsible, when in fact it's not always the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can take time off from work, and you don't, and you'd be surprised what good things happen without you even trying it as hard as you can.
What type of person are you?
White.
White?
I don't have any other adjectives that really fit.
Are you white on the inside too?
Yeah. I guess so. But no, I would say I'm pretty self-centered. I'm pretty selfish. At the same time, I've gotten a whole lot better than I used to be. I used to be extremely temperamental, very emotional. And I'm surprised as I look back on my life how much that's changed.
Are you freer now?
Much more.
Much more freer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what getting to know yourself, it frees
things
you
don't
up.
bug you. Things don't bug you.
You become like a kid.
It's amazing, but you get surrounded by really, if you spend time with very successful people, they should be happy.
Yeah.
They have all the
But they're
toys.
not.
They have the toys, they have the ladies, they have the guys, they have the houses, they got the money. They're not. There's always bigger toys, there's always
Yeah, that's right.
cooler ladies, there's always bigger houses. I mean, look at houses, right? Some of them are, whatever somebody builds, there's another bigger one. Yachts,
Yeah, that's
another
right.
one. And imagine having a 100-foot yacht and being unhappy with that. How could you be?
Yeah.
There are people like that.
Remind me of Mark. He has a yacht.
No, he was on Gilligan's Island.
He can fly to Russia on one Sunday and come back the next Sunday.
That's cool. Anyway, So
Well, cool.
that's
Okay.
what I think. When I've been unhappy, it's because I'm fooling myself about what makes me happy.
Yeah.
And that's usually because I'm not connected to God. I haven't learned, here's my biggest problem. I haven't learned how to hear God's voice, right? When I'm meditating, 10 minutes in, it's like, okay, I got to do this business deal. I got to do that business deal.
Right.
Every time.
So when you say I haven't learned how to hear God's voice, do you think you're going to hear it up in your head?
Yeah, like eat your broccoli. No, he's not. I'm not going to hear him tell me to eat.
Have you ever heard his voice?
No.
You've never heard the voice of God?
Never.
Really?
No. And
Oh,
I still
that's so sad.
I eat my broccoli on my own.
So you never heard the
Never.
voice of God?
Never.
Anybody have heard the voice of God? What does the voice of, you say you've heard the voice? Let me come here first. What does the voice of God sound like?
I don't know if it necessarily sounded like anything, but I just felt like I knew it was him.
You knew
But
it was
I don't
him?
feel like it sounded like a audible voice, but I knew that it was him telling me something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And you say you have heard the voice, and nobody else has heard the voice of God.
I think we hear it. We hear it every day. Maybe like
You heard the
way I
voice of God?
Yeah, the way I recognize it is that.
Let me ask you. Hold on. So
Yes.
you've heard the voice of God, right?
Yes.
And what does it sound like?
It's like the same old voice, but so new kind of thing.
What do you mean the same old voice?
It's like it's the things that's revealed to me. It's like it's so new, yet it's not new either. It's always been I knew it kind of thing, but then it comes to surface for a certain reason. So, like I said about 2-3 weeks ago, I realized like, man, I'm mean, you know.
You're mean?
Yeah,
But
but
sit next to Mary.
it was like it was kind of I realized that, but at the same time it wasn't news because it was old news. I kind of knew it, but I didn't know it. So when it's revealed to me, that's the only way I can describe it. It's like it's a voice that you kind of always knew it from the beginning, but at the same time it was kind of brushed away, and then you hear it again. It's like a news. It makes you go like, oh, you know. But at the same time, it's not news.
Okay. So you say you've heard it? Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't heard it. What does it sound like?
It really doesn't sound like anything because you don't hear it in your mind or in your ears. It's a still small voice that imparts to you a wisdom from God, and it always falls in line with God, with his principles, and it's not condemning or it's not pushy. When you're praying or you're bothered by a voice, that's usually the devil. So when you hear from different things, it's spiritual, it's not from God. But I really can't explain it. It's like he just imparts to you his wisdom, and it's like you get it without having an idea. It doesn't come from you or from the air or from some thought.
Amazing.
I can't describe it, but
okay. So if you're walking down the road and they see your halo and they say, "Hey, you look like a son of God," what does God's voice sound like? You got to say, I just don't know, but
I would tell them.
Oh, okay.
I would tell them. I would tell them this. I would say first you have to be saved, and
You have to be saved.
You have to be saved, and I would explain to them the spiel, and then try to help them understand. And if they can't, oh well. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I can't force somebody to hear the voice of God. I'm kind of not mean, but I'm kind of more direct than other people.
Right.
So I'm like, I can't help you. God can. The Holy Spirit can, and I'll tell you where to find him, but I can't.
Okay. And you don't know what his voice sounds like?
Sounds like a trick question almost.
A trick question. And what made me think of it, because Ed mentioned his voice, and he did like this.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear God's voice. So have you ever heard the voice of God?
I've had things that I knew all of a sudden, you know, situations that happen, and all of a sudden I know something, but I don't know that I'm not going to say I've heard God's voice.
Oh, okay. And you're scared to say it?
I'm not scared to say it. It just sounds like a trick question.
Sound like a trick question.
Yeah.
These are questions to make you think.
Right, and I'm
To
thinking.
make you ponder.
I'm
To
thinking
make
it's
you
a trick
look.
question.
See, you guys and ladies should be coming here some Sundays bringing me something. I'm here to learn too. As I'm teaching, I'm being taught. So I'm here to learn. Don't just come to get from me, but bring, give, and it shall be given back. My biblical question for next week, you've heard, you've read in the Bible where it says, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly how it goes. I will forgive you if you forget about God. I will forgive you if you turn against Jesus, but I will not forgive you if you blaspheme the Holy Spirit. Anybody ever heard that? Turn against the Holy Spirit. I will not forgive you if you turn against the Holy Spirit. Anybody know about, you heard that, right? That's my question for next week. That, I realized something about that was so good that I never realized before. It's going to blow your mind. But you got to ask God to show you. These are the things you need to be thinking about. Not what you're going to wear, where you're going to live, how much money you have or don't have. It's these things, the kingdom of God. And he will open up things to you. He really will. Yes, James. Oh, let me just say, is this about the voice of God?
No.
Oh, the voice of God is just common sense. It's just plain old simple common sense. And you hear his voice not in your head, but it's like a revelation. It's a revelation. He reveals things to you. And Satan tells you things. The devil tells you things, God reveals things. It's plain old common sense. Does that make sense? And he said, my children shall know me by my voice. But in all those people who listen to the voice in their heads are the children of Satan. Nobody here listens to the voices in your head, right? Everybody lying. Well, not everybody. But anyway, yes, James.
Joshua Susi is asking, Jesse, is the ego the voice of Satan?
Yes, the nature and the voice. That's why you must be born again, because in that fallen state, you're operating from the nature of Satan. And everyone who has anger, Satan is their father. And he's all ego. The ego doesn't want to admit it's wrong. It's always somebody else. Never admit that it's you.
I think Sam is asking, why did Adam eat from the tree and not just let Eve die?
Because he was hungry. And had Eve died, it wouldn't, no. Adam did it. First of all, it was meant to happen. It needed to happen because God wanted to make another way so we could have children. To have children. Once we were tired of having children, that's when we returned back to him. Also, Adam did it because God told him not to. You notice how when you tell your children not to do something, right away they want to touch it. Don't touch that hot iron. Right away they want to do it, right? And so that's why Adam did it, because God told him not to eat from this particular tree. So it became a temptation for him. And he couldn't resist it. That's a good question. You know, I can tell people, don't smoke pot. Don't you like want to run out and get a joint? No? Anyway, yes, James. Oh, yes, Mary. Okay, go to the thing while she's getting the mic. Go ahead.
Okay, this is about the silent prayer. Is it normal sometimes to feel deep sadness and cry while practicing the silent prayer?
Don't call it normal, just let it happen. When you're sitting still, whatever is happening, relax in it. Don't give it a name, because that's what Satan wants you to do. He wants you to give it a name. This is normal. Don't call it normal or abnormal. Be still and know God. That's a good question. Just let whatever happen. If you feel like throwing up white Satan stuff, have you seen people who are being rebuked of the devil and all this stuff come out of their mouth? The green stuff and all that. Anybody ever seen that? Yeah. Let that happen. If you feel like you're going to die, sit there and go through it. Just relax. Unless you got a medical problem. Yes.
Joshua is asking, is the powerful spirit of hatred towards Trump that causes parents to disrespect children and vice versa the spirit of Satan? I've never seen so much hate and anger in my 29 years of life.
Repeat that.
He's talking about the hatred that he sees in the country and the hatred between parents and children. That he hasn't seen it like this before. And he's asking if that's the spirit of Satan. No, he's not blaming Trump. He's just saying hatred towards...
all hatred, all anger is the nature of Satan. It is the nature of Satan. I was at the barbershop yesterday, and just sitting there kind of talking to some of the guys around there, and there was this man there, and I think he said he was in his early 70s, and he said that, he asked me, is it possible to marry a woman and be married to her over 50 years and she hates you? I said, yes, that's quite possible. And he said, I've done all I could do for my wife for over 50 years. I brought my paycheck home. I would hug and kiss her. I would tell her I love her. I couldn't wait to get home to her from work. But she gives nothing back. She acts like she hates me. At night, she sleeps on the edge of the bed. Like she's like a rock over there. He's like, why does she hate me? And so I told him, I said, well, when you get home, you need to ask her, what is it that I've done that has caused you to hate me for 50 years? Can you imagine? And it felt so sad. I don't know if it feels sad for people, but it felt so sad knowing this man had been married that long and his wife has hated him. He says she doesn't touch him, she doesn't give back anything. And he did all this, but I realized after talking to him and he had gone, that in all his giving, he was being selfish as well, because he was giving to her in order to get back. And he has not been getting it back, and she may know that, people know why you do certain things. And so she's not giving it back because she knows he wants it. He wanted that love and affection. He wanted this. And so she's used him for 50 years. And so I really blame him and not her. Because if he wasn't like that, that would not have happened to him. You notice how people give to you, and if you don't give it back, they get mad? That's a wrong kind of giving. You're supposed to give not expecting anything from that person. Because most of the time, 99.999, but not all, the person you're giving to is not going to be one that give back to you. It's going to come from another source. And so if you're thinking that person is going to give you something because you're giving to them, it's a wrong kind of thinking. And plus, when you give, you're not giving thinking about getting back anyway. You're giving because it's the right thing to do. And you're doing it with the right spirit. And so I hope I run into him again. I want to tell him that. It's his fault, not hers. She has her issues if what he's saying is true. But it's his fault that that has happened to him. It really is. Where am I? Are you done with? Oh, yeah, Mary, go ahead. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Well, the only thing I had to offer was when you said you offered somebody a joint, and the only reason they would accept that is if they're inclined to that. So it's not about that. It's just about where you are. I guess spiritually, whether you accept things or not.
Interesting. What do you think? This your first time here? Oh, tell me your name and how did you hear about us?
My name is Cheryl, and I think I saw you at Politicon. I knew about you on TV, but I saw you at Politicon. I thought, and then I looked it up, and I thought, let me go.
Black man carry on.
No, I said, let me go and see what this church is about. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you came.
Thank you. I'm glad I came too.
What do you think about the question of what is the cause of human suffering?
I kind of agree with people say. I think it's, okay, here's God, and here we are. So if you're trying to run parallel to God and like be God, and you have to, that's suffering, because you can't be God. Like you'll never be God. Like that's not going to happen. And the world keeps turning, and so you're suffering because you're not God. And so it's not in the right order. If you're running parallel to God, it's not in the right order. You have to be under him. You have to, you have to be aligned with him. So that's what I think. And then her about the joint, it's like I said, but if he offers a cherry pie, I'll take that. I mean, I'm not into drugs, but
if someone mentioned a sweet potato pie right now, I would want one.
Yeah. So it has to be what you're into.
I think what Mary was saying too, whatever is inclined toward, that's what you would want. If you're not interested in the joint, I can mention joint all day, but if I say margarita, yes, sir. Ernest, did you not see your hand too? I'll come to you right after Mark, and then I want to get to. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
A few weeks ago, we were talking about, do you fear God?
Right.
And I did not understand that, and I believe it was revealed to me. It was what she was saying. I believe it's not good to think God is your buddy. God's not your little buddy you hang out with, and no, God is God. And that keeps you in the right place. And if you think, God, you know what? I'm going to do this, and then maybe I'll text you later. It's not good for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not about this authoritative, oppressive sentiment. Just it's unrelated to what we're talking about. That's all.
Thank you. You must have been in Russia when we dealt with that. Thank you, Mark. The reason, yes, sir. The cause of human suffering is a resistance to the ever-changing flow of all things. The resistance to the ever-changing flow of all things. Whenever you try to resist change, whether it's inside of you or outside, it brings on suffering. Because nothing is permanent. Things are always passing. Things are always changing all the time. For example, if you're sick in the hospital, if you don't resist that, knowing that this shall pass too, you won't have to suffer from it. Whatever you resist, life, change, and flow, it brings us suffering. In relationships, if a relationship ends, whether it's a dating relationship or friendship or parentship, you know how parents don't want to let their children go. They can be 90 years old and they'll follow them everywhere, trying not to let go. It brings on suffering for the parents and the children. When everything passes, there's something called the Passover. Remember that? At the end of the year, I think Christians saw the Easter or something, right? That's what the Passover was all about, is to show that, and if you read the history of Christ, he went through a changing thing. One thing led to another, one thing led to another, one thing led to another, until he was able to overcome the world and return to his Father. And so we are in this fallen state, and those who are seeking the Father are on their way back to the Father. But if you resist the change and flow of life, you don't get back. You stop because you try to hold on to whatever it is that you have, and you suffer for that, no matter what it is. You cannot be resistant to ever change. We got to move out of this building, right? And so we had a flood in this building a while back, and when we had the flood, I brought the owner of this building inside and showed me the flood, and I asked him, did you have insurance and blah, blah, blah. He said no, he wasn't covered. So we had to cover with our own insurance, and we raised some money. And so we ended up spending over $100,000 doing the whole building over, because the manager gave me no hint that he would be selling the building and turning it into an apartment. Up and down Pico, if you know, there's a lot of big apartment buildings going up. They don't match the community, but they're going up. And so he had planned that a long time ago, but because he wanted me to stay here just for the rent, he didn't tell me that. And then now we know, you see the sign out there, now we know right away my mind wanted to just trip out. We put all this, and I did say to him, hey, you should have told me this because you knew we were about to spend all this money in this building. And he was like, I didn't know that. He just lying. He didn't know. He came in. I brought him in 3 times while we were making a change. But I realized the man owned the building. There are a lot of other buildings out there. I have to be willing, because we've been here almost 20 years, however long we've been here. This is changing too. It's passing on. And I don't know what the future's going to bring, but I have to be willing to let it go. And there's something better. Something leads to something else. But if I was like tripping out, I'd be going a nutcase right now. And so even with relationships, when they're over, they're over. Let them go. And when you get sick, be sick and it'll pass. If you reflect on your life, if you look back, take a moment and reflect, look how many things you have gone through already in life, from the moment you were born until now. And as a kid, you knew to let it go. But when you were traumatized, you fell into, away from God, you forget to let it go. So whatever you get a hand on, you try to hold on to it for dear life. And what you're doing is stop, and I got something in the Bible to prove it. I'm not making this up. It's here. But you're not returning to the Father, because life is about a return to the Father. When we fell away from God, we fell into the arms of Satan, and we are suffering. Christ came, and he made it so we can go back to the Father. Once we return back to Him, we are free again. But if you're holding on to anything in life, you're not going to return. And you're going to suffer for holding on to it. So you got to accept the changing flow of life. It's always changing. Nothing stays the same. And that's not a bad thing. That makes sense? Anybody guilty of holding on? Yeah. Yes, Tracy. Yeah. Guilty of holding on. This is why we got to get to know ourselves. And when you're getting to know yourself, you're going to see what the real hang-up is. There's nothing that you can imagine. It will be revealed to you. What have you tried to hold on to? And then I'll come here. Okay. Right there. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to cry.
You have children?
No.
Oh. You have a husband?
No.
You ever had a husband?
No.
Have you ever had a boyfriend?
Yes.
Did you try to hold on to him after you found out he cheated on you?
No. I definitely can.
Have you tried to hold on to a man?
Yeah, but then it doesn't work.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, but then it doesn't work.
Right.
Because I feel like I'm going to a well,
Yeah.
and I'm getting sand.
You make such a powerful point. Everything or everybody that you try to hold on to doesn't work. All you're doing is suffering through it. You push them away and you end up suffering because you find yourself willing to do almost anything to keep it. Have you noticed that? This is why you got to get to know yourself. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of see it like those people that are in bad relationships and they're being abused and they're hurting and suffering, but they still stay with the guy.
That's right.
No matter what.
And the devil tells them that it's going to get better, and he's lying. You have made it more important to you than God Himself. You made it more important than returning back to the Father. You really have, and you suffer for it. And then when you're suffering, you blame someone else for your suffering. If you love me, you wouldn't do to me this way. But I told you I don't want you. Or you get a house, or you get a car, or you get whatever it might be. You don't let the change happen naturally, it won't work. Everything passes. So just know that whatever situation you're into right now is going to pass. Just relax in it, let it be, and it will pass. Don't try to hold on to it. I saw a hand somewhere. Yes, ma'am. Did I see your hand?
Oh, I was, I forgot what I was going to say now.
Oh, okay.
Well, when you talk about being willing.
Being what?
Being willing to let
Yes.
it go. That is very important because I notice sometimes my friends say, or I noticed one time my friend had to, her father or whatever, they're from Lebanon, and she says, I might have to go over and do some stuff. I don't want to go, but I'm willing to go. And I talked to her later. I said, did you have to go? She said, oh, no, everything worked out. I didn't have to go. But I think the important part was that you're right. You have to be willing. Even if you don't want to do it, you have to be willing to do it.
To let go?
To let go, to do
Yeah.
whatever. You have to
The
be
beauty
willing.
of this is that of ourselves, we cannot make ourselves let go. Because it's spiritual. It's spiritual. It's a warfare between good and evil, right and wrong. And so you can't make yourself let go. The more you try to let go, the deeper you get into it. You just have to see, and then that will cause you to let it go. It really will. Yes, sir. And I want you to turn to John 13. John chapter 13, verse 1. We're going to read it in a minute, but go ahead, sir.
So it's not necessarily about telling yourself to willfully do something. It's just more about knowing it, right?
Yes.
Because if you know it, you may still willfully do it. Because you can't tell yourself, okay, I'm going to not do it, because then you're going to do it, because you're holding yourself against something. So then you're going to do it. But if you just know it, correct, then it's just naturally going to happen as it goes, because it may not happen right away. You may still hold on to it.
That's right. Yeah, just know it. For example, let's say you, I know a lot of people who drink a lot of water. They carry big bottles like this around, and they always drink water. Even when the body don't want it, they always drink water. I'm like, wow, that must be a trip to have to carry a big bottle of water around with you. And your body don't even want it, but you're hauling water. And then if you tell that person, no, don't do that. And if they can see, oh yeah, that makes sense. My body will let me know when I want water, just drink water. If they try to stop themselves, they'll walk around with 2 bottles. But if they just see that it's true and don't title it, don't call it good or bad, don't set a time how long you have to go through it. Who am I that I shouldn't suffer, and who am I that I determine how long it should be? If you just have that attitude and just see things passing by, it will work. It'll end at its own, just like it began on its own. But the moment you name it or time it, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
You don't see yourself as passing by. You see yourself as stuck in this thing. Mm-hmm. This is what I want. This is never going to end. This is good. This is bad. All we need to be observers of life. That's all is required of us, to see what's going on. And it's God who allows us to see what's going on. But we cannot have an opinion about it.
So you know it's wrong, but you just see and then let it, at least you know, but just let it pass just by seeing.
But you don't know it's wrong. You've been taught that it's wrong. And so the devil is using that against you. He's telling you, remember, you were taught that this is wrong. So you're like, yeah, this is wrong. Mm-hmm. But God sees wrong and right differently what we see it. Mm. And so that's why you want to be the observer and allow things to be revealed to you, because it's not like what you've been taught. Mm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
a lot of people think they're avoiding pain, and they think they're avoiding things because they've been taught right from wrong. Right from wrong is revealed to us. You can't teach a person that. You can teach your children all day long, it's not right to steal, right? God said, don't steal. Thou shalt not steal. And they grow up becoming the worst thieves because you tempted them to do it. Just like when Adam was told not to eat the apple. The temptation, eat the apple. He went out there, it was a nice, beautiful, red, juicy apple. Looked like American apple pie. And Satan said, isn't that a beautiful apple? You're hungry. And he said, yeah, I am hungry. Believed a lie. And there he goes. Yeah. But you cannot have an opinion about anything. When you see your fellow man, the devil is giving you an opinion about them, but don't go with that. You don't know who that person is, what they're going through, or what is the real deal with the person or people.
So if it's revealed to you that you know something is not 100% correct,
when it's revealed to you, it is correct all the time.
Well, I mean, like you see something, it's revealed to you that what you're seeing is wrong.
If you're just seeing it with your eyes, it's wrong. But if it's revealed to you, it's right. Or if Satan is telling you, if you're looking at something and Satan is telling you what that is, then it's wrong. Let it go. It's neither wrong nor right. Just don't believe into it. Let it go. You want revelation. All right? Yeah. What do you think about Ed, what do you think about what I just said? The reason for human suffering.
Well, it's definitely true in my life.
Yeah.
When I get in the way of stuff, right? I'm getting older. I want to resist that, right?
Yeah.
You're competing. You're out of the world of business. You get in the way of that. People know you're trying to get in the way.
Yeah. It's a
but
resistance
you also
to
look silly,
the ever-changing flow of all things.
Right. And
all things are always changing.
Right. And frankly, I've been through some situations in my life where if I just accepted that it would go away eventually, things turned out all right. But on the way there, it's not fun at all.
That's right.
But you somehow don't. I guess you would say you don't believe into the suffering. Is that a way to put it? Things are going badly, and
you don't believe that it's going to change.
No. When you can watch it go by, you don't believe that suffering is permanent. You don't believe into it. You don't feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm going to get through this. I've been through other stuff before.
If you can see that, and this is why it's so important to reflect, because if you can see when you reflect, you see where you come from. You see all those moments of things you've gone through and you thought you would not make it through it, but it passed. So if you could see that, that's how you would start living, and then you find you're overcoming the world. Remember, Christ came and he overcame the world, and returned to the Father, so that we can overcome the world and return to the Father.
In the moments of greatest suffering, I've also found that I'm learning about part of life that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, I didn't know.
And
I didn't know this was possible.
I think greater suffering comes too as a resistance to the little suffering that's happening. It just overtakes you, it overwhelms you. You got to let go. Absolute let go. Did you have your hand? Okay, right here. Then I want to read real fast John 13:1. 13:1. Yes, sir.
Yeah, like Jesus said that the Holy Spirit is like the wind, and you don't know where it comes from, where it goes, but it's kind of like with the way God may tell you to go and to let go of something and go. You may not know where this came from or where you're going, but you have to trust God to navigate you through. But if you stay rigid and God can't move you, you're going to stay in a bad place or wherever you shouldn't be.
Especially if you don't want, if you try to hold on to things. What do you think about this suffering right here?
My mom and I were talking about it on the way down.
Really?
Yeah, and we were
saying... Oh, about the biblical question?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We were saying that suffering seems to come from truth. Like, Jesus is truth, and he suffered for it. Noah said, everyone get an ark, and they're like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. He suffers socially for it, I guess. But, nowadays we see if you have truth, the news will tear you apart. And so I was looking at in Matthew 10 how he says, I'm not here to bring peace, but a sword. And I think we suffer for truth because of how passive that Christians have become specifically.
And it's okay that we're suffering because through the suffering, we're on our way back to the Father. So Christ had to go through that. Likewise, we have to go through that because the ego has to die. And so when you're going through the suffering, if you don't overreact to it, if you're not hating it, you're not judging it, that suffering is allowing you to go back home to your Father, return to God. And that way, by the time you return, you're overcoming the world. And so when people call you names, or if you lose someone or something, it's no big deal. You want to be into your culture. It wouldn't matter what color you are, male or female, because you return to the Father. So, and through that, you got to suffer through it. The ego must die.
Yes, that's the more closer you get to God or truth, that's the more hate you get. But then you realize you're not of this world. This is an evil world, and it pulls you out of it as well. So it's fine.
Absolutely. John 13:1. Who has it? I told you to start raising your hand like Hitler. I said, who has it? He went. You have it, Kelly? Let me hear it.
Just 13:1.
Yes.
Before the festival of the Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come to pass from this world to the Father, having loved those who were his in the world, loved them to the end.
So when you let that anger go, and God's nature is now dwelling in you, his nature is love. You know how you love everybody? You don't hate anyone. And love is not emotion. It's just not hated. Not emotional, just not hated, right? And so as you're passing through, it's easier for you to overcome and return to the Father. So you want to overcome the world and return to the Father. And that's what salvation is. When they say you must be born again, you must return to the Father, that's what it means. So you got to let yourself go through this stuff without an opinion. I'm telling you, because it's going to change anyway, whether you like it or not. So just see yourself as passing through. You're not permanent with anybody or anything. And that way, you don't try to hold on to it. It's not emotional to you anymore. You don't get mad about it anymore, and blah, blah, blah. You got to let go and let God. Really, you got to die in order to live. And salvation is about a return to the Father. That's why I say, love your parents. Forgive your parents. And once you forgive your parents, that's when it starts. Everything starts to change. Because once you overcome your parents, everybody else is easy. Most of the time, it's the parents who cause us to fall. And so when you forgive them, everybody else is easy. I used to be afraid of my mother. Remember I told you that? And because I was afraid of her, I resented her. I was afraid of all women, like most of the guys are today, who probably will never get married. But once you forgive your mother, then you see people as human beings. You see what's driving them, and it's the same thing that's driving you. And so you no longer have that fear of being afraid. And women know when men are afraid of them. They smell you coming. Here come a little weak coward. Let me see how much money he has. You know what I'm saying? Let me wrap him around my finger. And then guys see weak women too. Because they think like a woman, they know how to play them. But you got to let all that go in order to live. Does this make sense? Anybody disagree with this? Do you see this in yourself that you're too attached to the world? You want to hold on to stuff? Who don't see it about themselves? Oh, good. That is too cool. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but right below that in verse 2, and the only reason I want to read this because I ran upon this too while I was reading 1. It says, they were at supper. So Jesus is having his last meal with these folks, right? And they were at supper, and the devil had already they were at supper, and the devil had already put it into the mind of Judas, son of Simon, to betray him, to betray God. And when I saw the devil had done it, we've been saying for years, your thoughts are not your own. Your thoughts are not from God. They're from your father, the devil. He put things in your mind, and you believe into the lie, and he controls you. It's not you. It's the devil. This is why it's so important that you seek first the kingdom of God in his right way. Let that be more important than anything else, and things will be fine. You'll learn things about yourself that you didn't know. Most of you here today and out there in TV land, wherever you are, you didn't know that you were attached to things. You weren't allowing things to pass. You were holding on to certain things. Some things you let go, but those things that you make important to you, you don't let them go. And you had no idea how much that was hurting you. It was causing you to suffer. But if you get to know yourself, it's a different reality, a different world inside of you. It really is. A different reality on the inside. Another world, the way we were before we fell from grace by resenting our parents for the most part. All right? So when you think about that, did this help a little bit? So when you're going through something, and whether it's material things or relationships, when it's over, let it be over. Let go. Don't worry about it. Why is she having it on now? Huh? Oh, why are you playing that now, Mary? Is that the meanness in you? But anyway, we need your support, folks. I want you to get to know yourself. Life is different. Overcome the world. If you want to know how to live, you got to overcome the world. That's just reality. You're not going to get it unless you just travel through life, not holding on to anything. We need your support, especially now. We're going to have to move. I don't know what's going to happen, but we have to move, so we need extra support. You can go to rebuildingtheman.com to make a tithing donation, rebuildingtheman.com, or call 800-411-2663, 800-411-BOND, all right? We need your support. And, we do counseling. You can call into the radio show, and we have the same type of discussion. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.